James Bell, and tonight I'll be serving as the chair. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for August 1st. The first matter of business tonight is citizens' comment. Any citizen wishing to appear before a regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding any matter posted on the agenda was to sign up no later than 6 p.m. on the day of the meeting. If anyone signed up to speak, they will have 3 minutes to speak. Staff will time each citizen and provide a warning when they have 30 seconds left. I believe as now we have 2 people that have signed up. First off, we have Mr. Mott McClendon. Mr. McClendon, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mott McClendon. I work at 1500 Broadway and live at 16th and Salem. I'm rising to speak with you about agenda item 4.1, which is the amendment, and specifically about Amendment 23, which relates to the requirement of a supermajority at council in certain circumstances. I want to make clear that I'm speaking for myself, not on behalf of any group, and kind of lower the stakes, because I got the sense watching the work session that this wasn't a real high energy amendment on your list, and to say that in the past have been in situations where a supermajority at council has been helpful to what I hope to accomplish, and it's also been a hindrance to what I've hoped to accomplish. So it's kind of, I'm kind of ambivalent about it, but I think because I think it was represented to you that this is on your amendment list because it was something in our prior code that was inadvertently left out. And I have no doubt that that is true, but I do want to take this opportunity to think through it for just a little bit. So that provision says that a supermajority of council is required in two instances. One is when P&Z denies a case. And so it's sent up to council and a supermajority is required in that instance. The second is when there's been a 20% protest within the 200-foot limit or 200, the notice area. So here's how I would suggest and hope that you would be considered, unless y'all have strong feelings about it, hope that you would lay this out for council. The protest portion is a matter of state law. It exists in Chapter 211 of the Local Government Code. What I would suggest to you is you take those portions out of the amendment, because the legislature changes state law from time to time, and we don't need to go through all of this every time they do. We will be subject to that 20% protest requirement in our code because we are subject to state law. So I think that cleans it up a little bit. So I would hope that you would amend the amendment to remove that portion, which would be between the commas in the first sentence and everything after the period in the first sentence. And then the remainder then is whether or not y'all have feelings about requiring council to have a 2/3 or a supermajority to overrule a case denied by P&Z. And my feelings would be that y'all deny that and make that council's decision. Because if I'm watching council, there are times when that gives them political cover, but it also scapegoats y'all. It might shorten some of your more contested cases if they knew that they were going to be able to take that up at the council level. But again, I only say turn it down because then council doesn't feel like y'all have weighed in on the issue and put your thumb on the scale and had feelings about it, unless you have feelings about it, in which case pass it. I mean, either way. But it is an odd thing. It's not required by state law, and ultimately they're the elected officials, and so I think it could be useful to have them not put that on y'all. So I just wanted to say that would be a way that I would suggest that you set up number 23. Get rid of the portion that just simply recites state law in regards to the 20% notice, and then deny the remainder of it, just so council has it fresh and can take it up as they see fit. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McClendon. Next person to sign up was Terry Holman.
Good evening. I'm Terry Holman with Hugo Reed and Associates. We're at 1601 Avenue N. I'm speaking as well on the UDC amendments this evening. In my case, particularly your items number 1 and number 69 on your list. I'd like to give you a little bit of background as to why I'm here this evening having this discussion. We had a very good opportunity at the work session a week ago to sort of lay out our case for these amendments and what we felt like we were in support of. I had been looking at an outdated list of staff comments until I was reminded just a few days ago that I was not looking at the right list. Shame on me, and that's totally my fault. I did find when I looked at the final list of staff comments, which is what you should have with you this evening, I did trip over a couple of technical items that were serious enough for me that I felt they needed to be addressed. And so what I've printed out for you this evening is my recommendations on basically cleanup of the cleanup, as it were, for items 1 and 69. So the very first page has to do with this sort of ongoing question about how we establish what types of residential development you could have on a given block face. And so the premise of the note was to say that if you have single family on a block face, which that can be garden homes, townhomes, or single family, that you have to maintain just single family on that block face. But then it goes on to say that if you have multiplexes and duplexes and apartments, that they cannot be across the street from single family. That does create a weird dynamic in some situations, and I'll show you some examples here where that, just because of how we have to transition in our design process, sometimes you're just going to have the unavoidable exercise of having a duplex across the street from a single family. So what I try to do is cure this a little bit and tighten up the language to make it a little bit more airtight for staff if the question comes up. So the two examples I gave you on the next page, one is a subdivision that we have underway. You can barely read it at this scale, but these are platted as large lots. They're going to be developed as multiplexes, what we know as quadplexes. And you'll notice that we're butting up next to some existing single family, primarily across the street from Chicago Avenue. And what this wording does is it tightens that up to allow duplexes across from single family so long as they're not facing each other. Okay, so that's the premise of that note. The second one, which is a little less complex, I think, is just tightening up the language on rear setbacks for rear-facing garages and rear-facing carports. I think the best thing for me to do is just let you digest that for a moment when you're going through the amendments, and I'll be happy to stick around and answer any questions should that come up. I think we're restating what we believe the intent of those comments were, to really tighten up the language and take some of the loopholes out. That was what we were trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Did we have anybody else that had signed up? Okay, thank you. That will close the part of the citizens' comments. The next matter of business is the approval of the minutes for the July 8th, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Have a motion by Mr. Sawyer.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gloina. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? No. Carries 7, or is it 1, 2, 3, 8 to nothing today. Tonight's meeting will go out of order from the agenda that we have out. Zone case number 1067G will be moved to the end of the zone cases. We'll hold the other cases 3.2 through 3.6, then recess into executive session. 4.4, then hear case 1067G, item 3.1. We'll finish with the other items of the agenda, 4.1 through 4.3. So next up is the zone cases. When we call your name, call up your zone case, please come forward and state your name and an address for the record. So we will open the public hearing. The first item on the agenda is item 3.1, zone case 1067-G. I just read myself over that. Is zone item 3.2, zone case 3267A.
Good evening.
This is zone case 3267-A. The applicant is Spindlebach Properties, LLC. The request is for a zone change from neighborhood commercial to heavy commercial district. The properties are in District 4 and are located between 116th Street and 118th Street and east of Indiana Avenue. We sent out 25 notifications and have received 2 in favor and 0 in opposition. Here is a mail-out notification map. Here is an aerial view of the subject property. The current zoning is neighborhood commercial. The properties to the north and south are zoned with a combination of heavy commercial district, HC, NC, and low-density single-family district, SF2. To the east, there is a mini self-storage facility zoned HC. The property to the west is zoned SF2, built with a church. The future land use map designates this area for commercial land uses. Here are photos of the subject property and the surrounding area. Here is a photo provided by the applicant. The future land use map designates this property for commercial land uses. The proposed zone change to HC would be in conformance with the future land use plan and comprehensive principles. The proposed zone change is in conformance with the zoning ordinance and it will be appropriate at the proposed location. The subject properties are surrounded by commercially zoned districts. The zoning change to heavy commercial district HC will not change the surrounding area or the character of the existing development. The location is between 116th Street and 118th Street, which are designated as local streets. Local streets typically provide access to smaller destination-oriented areas, such as neighborhoods, subdivisions, or local business districts. Staff recommends approval of this case, and we can take any questions at this time.
Does anyone have questions for staff at this time? Okay, thank you very much. Is the applicant or his or her representative here and wish to make any comments? Okay. Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Okay, seeing none there, is there anyone here to speak in favor? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. For matter of discussion, do we have a motion?
Purpose of discussion, motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, have a second. Okay, what discussions on this, anyone?
No one's here to open that discussion.
So to the west there is zone single family, but it's currently, did I hear that right? It's currently used as a church? Or is
Yes,
it?
it is. And I spoke with the applicant prior to the meeting. What their plans are to do exactly what is being developed to the north, which are just office warehouse buildings and offices.
So they knew about tonight's meeting?
They did.
And the applicant isn't here tonight?
It doesn't look like he is.
They they notify you that they weren't going to be here?
No, they did not, but they were aware of our meeting.
Okay.
I mean, my radar typically goes off when I see single family next to heavy commercial, but I see it's being used as what it is. I'd sure like to, in this type case, hear from the applicant or hear from somebody.
What are our options here?
Postpone.
You can either,
Postpone, not deny?
you can postpone, you can approve, you can deny, or you could push it till the end of the meeting and we can try calling the applicant and see if they can get here.
I mean, I go with Jordan on this. Whether you go and look at it or not, I always take a little concern when somebody has a proposal that they want to come up and something for her and they're not willing to, or able, or do not intend to do for it.
I can support a postpone, but not a move it to the end.
Yeah.
We have a big agenda tonight and these people have all waited for us. So it's
Well,
not fair to
we
them.
And we don't know why they're not here.
No.
So I think a postpone, I would like to have them come up and say what they're going to do and have it on record what they plan to do.
Okay.
But without them being here, we can't do that.
So would we need Mr. Sawyer to amend his motion to postpone?
I'll amend my motion to postpone.
We need to do
Table it to the next planning and zoning meeting.
which would be the
September 5th.
September 5th. Okay. We have a second for
I will
that?
second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, it will be tabled to the September 5th meeting. The next zone case is number 3303D, which is item 3.3.
Good evening, Board. I'm Greg Hernandez with the Plan Department, and this is Zone Case 3303D. The applicant is Dean Realty Group of Keller Williams for SE 4NS Properties LLC, requesting to rezone from Industrial Park to Auto Commercial District. The property is located east of Frankfurt Avenue and south of 119th. 56 letters were sent out. We received 1 back in favor and 0 in opposition. Here's a notification map showing the 1 in favor. Here's the aerial view of the property. To the west and east are residential housing. South is currently vacant land, and to the north is commercial buildings. The current land use map shows the properties to the north zone industrial park, the properties to the west low-density single-family district, the properties to the east medium-density residential district, and the map shows the property to the south industrial park, but it was recently rezoned auto urban commercial. The future land use map designates this property for residential low density. Here's a picture of the subject's properties, as well as views to the south, north, and west. Here's a site plan provided by the applicant showing the properties. The future land use map designates this area for residential low density. Although the proposed zone change to AC would not be in conformance with the future land use plan, the surrounding properties along Frankfurt Avenue are already being developed as commercial properties, making this location appropriate for AC zoning. The proposed zone change is in conformance with the zoning ordinance. The properties are located along an arterial street and are appropriate adjacent to nearby land uses. The proposed zone change is compatible with the surrounding area and will not change the character of the existing development. The downzoning from IP to AC is an appropriate district to the adjacent MDR land uses to the east. The AC district is a suitable buffer between Frankfurt Avenue and the neighborhoods to the east. The location is along Frankfurt Avenue, which is designated as a minor arterial by the Master Thoroughfare Plan 2018. And staff recommends approval of this request, and I can take any questions at this time.
Just clarification, you mentioned the one to the south. We downzoned from IP to the NC earlier.
AC.
And, AC. And also, hadn't it been in recent months on the west side of Frankfurt, there was some that was Industrial Park 2 that we downzoned as well, too. So a lot of that area has been going down, correct?
That's correct. I'm not 100% sure on the west side of Frankfurt, but I do know that I had the 330C, which is the property to the south. So that one I do know. We just did that one in May, I believe.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Does anyone else have other questions for staff? Okay, thank you. Is the applicant or his or her representative here?
Hello, Jeremy Steen, 10210 Quaker Avenue. I'm here just to shed a little light on the project and then answer any questions if you guys have any. So the property is actually under contract and the buyer is the Grace Lubbock United Methodist Church, and they intend to convert that shell space on Frankfurt into a south campus for their church.
Anybody else have questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this case? Seeing none, is there anyone to speak in favor? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve. Go ahead.
Zone case 3303-D.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
Down zone, we've done it before. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I think definitely in that that part of that town and where everything's going, being mixed, downzone's good.
We just did it next door, so.
Okay, we have any other discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and call the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries 8-0. The next zone case will be item 3.4, which is zone case 3506.
This is case 3506. The applicant is Brian and Chad Carter. They are requesting a zone change from low-density single-family district to heavy commercial district at 5834 and 5836 146th Street. Located west of Frankfurt Avenue and north of 146th Street, we've sent out 7 notifications, receiving none back. Here's an aerial image. The north, west, and southern properties are undeveloped farmland. The eastern properties are outside of city limits, developed with both single-family houses and commercial uses. The current zoning map shows the northern and western properties as low-density single-family district, and the southern property as medium-density residential district. The future land use map designates this area for residential low-density uses. These are photos of the subject property and its surrounding. The future land use map designates this area for residential low-density land uses. While this request does not conform to the designation, it would be appropriate along a major thoroughfare. Required buffer yards would provide sufficient barriers from lower intensity uses. Therefore, this request is in moderate conformance with the comprehensive plan principles. The zone change is in conformance with the zoning ordinance and will be appropriate at the proposed location. And the zone change is compatible with the surrounding area and will not change the character of the existing development. The property is located north of 146th Street, which is designated as a principal arterial modified, and west of Frankfurt Avenue, which is designated as a minor arterial by the Master Thoroughfare Plan of 2018. This proposed zone change is in conformance with the zoning ordinance and is compatible with the surrounding area, as it will not change the character of the existing development. Staff recommends approval of this request, and I can take any questions at this time.
And I'm assuming this is part of the ones too. I'm not sure if they were using it for the same deal prior to, but it was in the old codes, it was transitional, and when the new ones came in, it changed it to the SF2, and that's probably the reason for the request.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Is the applicant or his or her representative here and like to make any comments?
Brian Carter, 4708 109th Place, Lubbock. I don't have any comments, just I can answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are y'all currently using it for that?
No, sir.
Okay.
We just actually got it just for future usage. We have BNC fence, and we're at 114th and Quaker now, our side. And just in the off chance that we sell, we would be able to
Have a
move
chance
there.
to go. Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this request? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in favor? Would you please state your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Thomas Payne, 15309 FM 1730 in Lubbock County. When I saw this, I've known the Carter brothers for a long time. They operate their current business just east of Slide Road on the north side of 114th Street. Heavily developed area now, very close to the new UMC hospital. They've been there for many years, and I've seen the way they operate their business and take care of their yard, and they keep it clean, very orderly. Just to clarify a little bit for the record, although technically undeveloped, there are preliminary plats on file across the street south, adjacent west, and adjacent north for residential development. West and north, I'm developing now. The water's already installed. So I'm developing lots adjacent to this. Initially, I had some concerns, and I've visited with the Carters about those and received the assurances that I needed to be comfortable. I think they'll do a great job there, and they'll be a good neighbor to everybody that's out there. So with those assurances, I wanted to rise and speak in favor of the request.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. Is there, close the public hearing. If for matter of discussion, is there a motion?
Motion to approve zone case 3506.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion by the commission? Seeing none? Okay, let's take the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries 8-0. Next matter of business is item number 3.5, zone case number 3507.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Padilla. This is zone case 3507. The applicant is Mountaintop Engineering for CTJ Diamond Investments, LLC. Requesting to rezone from SF2 to AC. We've sent out 17 notifications, receiving 0 in favor. We did receive 1 in opposition late this afternoon. You should have that in your packet in front of you. This property is located north of 82nd Street, east of Upland Avenue. Here's an aerial view of the property. To the north and east is a self-storage facility. To the south is an office building, and to the west is a church and a daycare. The current zoning is low-density, single-family SF2. The future land use plan designates this property for commercial. Here are photos of the property and its surroundings. The future land use map designates this area for commercial land use. The proposed zone change to AC would be in conformance with the commercial designation. The request would be appropriate next to adjacent land uses and commercial zoning along 82nd Street and fronting along an arterial street. The proposed zone change is in conformance with the zoning ordinance and will be appropriate at this proposed location. The zone change is compatible with the surrounding area and will not change the character of the existing development. The rezoning location will be along 82nd Street. 82nd Street is designated as a principal arterial, and staff recommends approval, and I can take any questions.
Do we have any questions for staff? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is the applicant or his or her representative here?
Good evening, Commission. I'm Tommy Harms with Mountaintop Engineering on behalf of our client here. I'm here if y'all have any questions or concerns about the property.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Harms, could you state your address?
Sorry, we're located at 604 County Road 7200, and I personally live at 9305 County Road 7310 in Wolford, Texas.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
So what is your plans for this property?
So right now my client is working with another one of my clients. They're under contract to sell it, and they're currently planning to remodel it and use it for the similar use that it was. So this building was built in 1995 and annexed in 1999, zone transitional, and then it changed back to single family or low density single family, excuse me. So they're just trying to get it back to the original zoning and use the building for the same purpose.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this request? Okay, seeing none, anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Okay. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve zone case 3507.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Okay, no discussion. We'll call the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries 8-0. Next zone case is item 3.6, zone case number 3505.
Okay, this is zone case 3505. The applicant is 17 Services LLC for Scarlet River LLC. Requesting to rezone from SF2 to HC. Sent out 13 notifications, receiving 2 in favor, 0 in opposition. This property is located west of North Frankfort Avenue. Here's the notification map. Here's an aerial view of the property. To the north is residential home. To the east is vacant land and a self-storage facility. To the south and west is vacant property. The current zoning is low-density single-family SF2. The future land use plan designates this property for residential low density. Here's an overhead view of the property. Here are photos of the property and its surroundings. Here's a graphic provided by the applicant. The future land use map designates this area for residential low-density land use. While the proposed zone change to HC is not in conformance with this designation, it is appropriate at this location while fronting a major thoroughfare near an established HC zoning property to the south and across the street from a self-storage facility. The proposed zone change is in conformance with the zoning ordinance, and it will be appropriate at this location. The zone change is compatible with the surrounding area and will not change the character of the existing development. The rezoning location will be along North Frankfort Avenue. North Frankfort Avenue is designated as a principal arterial, modified. And staff recommends approval of this request, and I can take any questions.
We have any questions for staff at this time? No? Okay, is the applicant or his or her representative here and wish to speak?
Good evening. I'm Tyler Gentry with 17 Services, office at 1500 Broadway, reside at 4005 76th Street. Here to answer any questions.
I've got a question for you. What's currently stored on this lot?
You know, there was a lot of debris and trash, and the current owner purchased it and has begun an effort to clean it up.
Okay. It's rough.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this request? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in favor? Again, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion by Mr. Sanders.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Gloina. Do we have any further discussion on the dais? No. Okay, we'll take the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Motion carries 8-0. At this time, the Planning and Zoning Commission will recess into executive session to hold consultation with city staff and attorney pursuant to Section 555.071 of the Texas Government Code. Okay, call the Planning and Zoning Commission back into order. We'll hear zone case 1067G, item 3.1.
This is zone case 1067G. The applicant is Helmos Interest LTD. They're requesting a specific use for a smoke shop on property zone neighborhood commercial district at 6913 Indiana Avenue, located east of Indiana and north of 70th Street. We've sent out 47 notifications, receiving 1 back in favor and 4 in opposition. The Mellet map locates the 1 in favor within the 200-foot boundary and the 4 in opposition within the 400-foot boundary. Here is an aerial image. To the north and east are developed as retail. The southern property is a medical clinic, and the western properties are both duplexes and retail. The current zoning map shows the northern and eastern properties as neighborhood commercial district, the southern property as auto-urban commercial district, and the western properties as both neighborhood commercial and medium-density residential. These are photos of the subject property and the surrounding area. This is a close-up, which shows the proposed location of this request within the building. The property is located, the proposed specific use is in conformance with the zoning ordinance. The property is located along a major thoroughfare and is appropriate adjacent to commercial land uses. The specific use is compatible with the surrounding area and will not change the character of the existing development. The property is located north of 70th Street, which is designated as a local street, and east of Indiana Avenue, which is designated as a principal arterial by the Master Thoroughfare Plan 2018. Staff recommends approval of this request with the condition that the specific use is limited to 1 smoke shop on this parcel, and I can take any questions at this time.
we have any questions for staff at this time? Okay, thank you very much. Is the applicant or his or her representative here? When you please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Abdullah Al-Shaif, and I live at 2207 88th Street, Lubbock, Texas.
I'm Carrie Harris. I'm his attorney at 1101 Broadway.
I'm just here to answer any questions.
I didn't have my mic on for that. Is there any questions for the applicant at this time? Mr. Wheatley?
In the packet here, there's a letter in opposition. And do we have on the map where it is against or who it was from? This Belinda Gamboa. Is she a tenant in that building?
I believe she's across the street.
3402 69th. Is that west of Indiana?
Yeah, it would be on the corner.
Okay. And there's another one across the street. 12505 Quaker. I'm sorry, no, 6801 Indiana. Have you reached out to any of these people that are in opposition? Has anyone?
I just got the opposition letters about 2 days ago from the landlord, so I haven't had time to really reach out to anybody yet.
Okay.
But I'm here to answer any questions about it, if there's anything that you guys are concerned about those opposition letters. I know one of them mentioned something about illegal, like selling of illegal products and stuff. In all of our shops, we comply with Texas law and federal law, and we don't sell anything that is in like a gray area or anything. We never received any sorts of citations or anything. We try to run a local shop, me and my brother, and we've never really received any kind of trouble from law enforcement or done anything. We're law-abiding citizens.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions for the applicant?
What's the name of your shops and what are your other locations?
Smoke Scene. We have one on University, close to University, in 80 next to the Target, that shopping center next to Target on University, and the other one is on 50th Street, across the street from Home Depot.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this request? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in favor? Okay, we'll close the public hearing for matter of discussion. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve with the exception that it's limited to one shop in the tract.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Can we have a second from Ms. Tomlinson? Okay, discussion for the commission?
It is awfully close to residential.
Across the street?
Yeah, but it's also next to a liquor store.
Yeah, that's,
And,
I mean,
and there is a bar in the restaurant.
there is in both restaurants.
do we have any other discussion?
I'm reading one of the opposition letters. It states we don't need any more smoke shops in this area. Are any of y'all aware of any other smoke shops in that area that you've seen, been over there?
No, I don't know of it.
I don't believe so, but Kristen, wouldn't that be still go into the regulations about being within another smoke shop within 1,000 feet?
Correct. There's not another one within 1,000 feet.
Okay.
Thank you. Do we have any other discussion?
No.
Y'all ready to call the vote?
Just for clarity, the motion was, what was the motion again? Can you repeat that? It was,
The motion was to approve with the stipulation that there could only be one smoke shop within the whole parcel of the shopping center.
so the whole parcel's under consideration to change for, okay.
Correct.
So we're, just so we're clear, and it's on the record, we're asking for the entire tract to change for the sole use of a smoke shop in one suite out of the tract,
Yeah.
the building.
You know,
Yeah, not limited to this suite
I'm,
in the future.
no.
But as long as it would be just one.
Just one.
So, you know, and I don't know, is it okay to talk about the fact that the permitting will change in the future, in the near future?
Well, it's certainly under consideration. We don't, as far as changing specific use zoning to specific use permitting in the future, there's nothing, though, that is concrete or actually has been put before anybody.
So my thinking is, if the permitting, if the intention is that permitting will change in the near future, so there's nothing concrete, but that's the intention, I'd be more comfortable postponing and just having them apply for a permit once that happens.
I'm not sure we know what
Is it
time.
currently working as a smoke shop, though? Are they already open as a smoke
Yeah,
shop?
we're trying to relocate a certain location away. So this is an existing smoke shop that we've had.
Could you please come up?
Yeah.
So, the reason why we applied for the special use and we weren't waiting for that one is this is we have an existing smoke shop close to Texas Tech that we are trying to move because the parking there it's at a building that doesn't really have parking. So we're trying to move that location to the one, like the products from that one to this new location. And what we're worried about is that some of that products, if we wait, if we're constantly waiting for the permit to like change, that product might go bad and then I have to pay tens of thousands to try to replace that product again, if that makes sense.
It does. The flip side of this also is, you know, because I'm very much on the fence on this right now, but the flip side is also that we're essentially cleaning up our mistake tonight, right? And so we've already approved it once, we just did it incorrectly.
Right, we did it incorrectly, designating, if I understand it right, Mr. Wade, we designated it as one suite when it should have been, legally, it should have been for the whole tract, is that correct?
Yeah, so here's, the problem with tabling or postponing is there's no date certain that when we know when the change is going to be made. If we need to go back in executive session, we certainly can go back in executive session, discuss it if there's some legal issues. If you would like to make the motion to only one location on this parcel, what suite number do you have?
Do you have that, Kerry?
It's address 6913.
6913. If you would like to make the motion specific to 6913, that would be fine. To go ahead and say if the move to approve it, limiting it to one smoke shop, this parcel, and to 6913.
So I don't want to inconvenience you or to cause you to lose revenue or anything like that. And I also, you know, we've already approved it once, just we need to clean up how we approved it. Yeah, and it sounds like postponing it's probably not a good idea.
It's probably not the best.
So one other angle to look at this, I should have thought of this earlier, but the existing commercial retail, we're asking to go to neighborhood commercial, right? For the entire tract. So all the other uses in that shopping center, they can change their use to neighborhood commercial without coming back to planning and zoning and asking?
They're already neighborhood commercial. We're just asking for specific use.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not really changing the zoning for anybody else. It's just trying to be, if I'm correct.
I follow you. I'm just getting it right in my head.
Smoke shops only available with specific use in this area. And so they're looking for it there to do the specific use. So it's, yeah, we got the question to that. It's not as bad as like you're changing the whole zoning for the whole deal. It's just putting a specific use.
Our hangup is that we don't want a giant smoke shop there.
Right.
If it
No,
makes,
this is a, we're talking about it in terms of legal issues right now. Why we're, you know, because when we change the whole zoning, we have to think about the future, not necessarily what you're doing.
okay.
And so we're hashing it out up here. Okay, so,
But that can be rectified, Mr. Wade, am I correct? If we go ahead and we just put in the address to this particular,
I think that would be the.
that's the best thing to do at this point.
it's not
Yes.
ideal, but
It is not ideal, and we do hope that the process will change in the future.
Yes.
But we're dealing with an application that we currently have, and that one that's already been before this board.
Right.
So those are all good points that you make. But I think that the best course of action would be for the motion to be limited to 6913 within that parcel, that whole parcel.
From what I understand, it doesn't limit it, right? We're saying that, sweet, but it doesn't limit it, like the specific use applies to the entire parcel, right?
The specific use applies to the entire parcel, but they can only have one smoke shop, and it
So
has to be
I
at
guess
this
my question
suite.
is, what's the benefit of naming the suite number? If there can only be one, it could be anywhere within the parcel.
Well,
There's no benefit to adding the suite number.
Yeah.
I think it might create a fact issue in the future if a different one wanted to go to a different place. Okay, without commenting on the legal viability for that, I think it would create a fact issue. So I think that there might be some benefits to doing it.
On another, on a hypothetical, down the road.
Lawyers hate hypotheticals in a public setting.
Okay, future down the road, and let's say we do have a permitting process in place for this. Is that permitting process, are people, is it retroactive or are people grandfathered in? How does that work?
Okay, I don't want to get too far into legal advice in an open setting.
Would you prefer
Normally, I'm sorry?
Would you prefer we go back to executive session?
I would prefer that we go back into executive session.
Give us a minute.
We're moving to executive session. Call the meeting back to order from executive sessions and continue with discussing our zone case.
I'd like to amend my previous motion to approve the zone change request for special use for the entire tract, but limit the smoke shop to the physical address of 6913.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? No? Okay, let's call the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay, motion carries 7-1. Thank you. That will be going to City Council the 13th. Okay.
August 27th.
August 20, that's right, got to be two. August 27th. Now we'll move on to our other business. The first one will be item 4.1.
James, she wants to do the super majority first.
That's part of the,
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Item 4.1 is to consider proposed amendments to the Unified Development Code. Those were presented at the July 25th joint hearing with City Council. I would be happy to discuss any of them you would like or answer any questions you may have.
So is this where we can ask?
So you want to start talking about individual ones?
Yes.
If that's how you would prefer to do it, yes.
I think
we'd
Terry
like to
is.
go through them one by one.
Yeah.
Or not, okay, all right.
No, I'm not gonna say I'm not against the one by one, but I think there's some of them that are really just more, 10 of them are definitions that come through, and if we have questions, I think we can bring them up. I think if anybody's looked through them and they've got any questions on the ones that they have, I think that would be best to bring up and kind of open it up instead of let's going through 76 again.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that I do want to point out too is that's been brought to my attention, and I'll get my stuff, amendment number 76 that is on the list is going to be it's going to be pulled from us to consider, and it's going to be taken to city council as a separate issue.
Which one?
76. It was the
Parallel
construction on the commercials.
Yeah.
I know that the questions we had, and I think Mr. Holman spoke to again, was about, I'm going to bring it up first, is the one in the 69 that we had is regards to a couple of the residential uses and, well, actually, set in the setbacks. If we'd like to go over that and see if anybody has questions to go, or if they understand, and what's the staff's position on it.
Item
Number
69.
one, start off with number one.
Number one, okay.
Are we going to go through these one by one?
No.
Again?
No, I'm just going the ones that I had questions
Okay.
with first and try to say, because some of these
We just went through it with the joint city council meeting, right?
Right.
All of these.
All
You've
of
already
these.
called out 76 as being pulled off for city council.
Right, and not as part of the amendments to this. It's going to be handled as a separate issue
Okay.
that would not need to be addressed, it's my understanding, in the
Right,
UDC.
right.
Okay, so you want to start with number one because you have questions on it?
Well, and this is one Mr. Holman brought up, and it's the
Okay.
first one.
So the amendments proposed by Mr. Holman
yeah.
on number one, staff has reviewed them, and we don't see any issues with his proposal. It just clarifies the language, tightens it up. It doesn't change the current intent.
And it's my understanding 69 was the same way.
Exactly.
So we're allowed to consider Terry's new packet because it's just in reference to what he turned in last week?
He is proposing clarifying language on 2 of the staff recommended amendments.
Okay, and because that was in the notice,
Yes.
okay.
Which means this doesn't require another public hearing.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Those are, we've
Okay.
got those. Who wants to go next? If you want to go down the list and look to see if there's any ones that anybody's got.
The 26, the pool and the garden home, I just want to, I know that Councilman Collins brought that up at the hearing. I think that we need to stick to a 10-foot distance on a pool. I don't know if that's the one that,
To put that, for clarity on that, I'm trying to think of a real-world example. Let's say I move into a neighborhood and I build a house, and I've got my garage backing up, and then zero lot line neighbor comes in, decides they want to build a pool, and you have a pool contractor come dig a hole 5 feet from your foundation, and then the hole sits there for 3 months, or whatever potential structural engineering issues you may have, we're looking to provide protection against that.
Yeah,
Or
'cause-
Mr. Collins was.
Yes.
because in a traditional home setup, you've got 5 and 5.
Yeah.
Per 10 between brick to brick.
Exactly.
So I would like to see it stay 10 foot from a zero lot
Zero
line.
lot line.
Okay.
Does that make sense to everybody that,
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea.
right? That was a good catch by Councilman.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I want to kind of bring up the ones that we have discussions on that we really feel that we have a difference of. And then what we can do is vote on the ones that we know are pretty simple. We can say vote on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever we approve, they're simple. And then if we have questions, we could take individual votes on the ones in question, if that's acceptable. Okay, well, which one that is?
Which one?
Number 23.
start
earlier,
this
and I
one
can't
with-
remember what it was now.
I respectfully disagree with Mr. Mont that the whole point of us being here and having this is because of that. If it doesn't require supermajority, then I feel like, why are we here? That is the whole point of us being here, and our vote does matter, and our opinion does matter. And so I think as far as the 20% protest, that's completely, again, it's a local law, state law, so, but I do think that it should stay a super vote and should be put back in there.
I tend to agree with Terry. Yeah, respectful of the feelings of council and Mr. McClendon at the back. I think that we're here to volunteer time, and I don't want to lessen our importance to the process.
Right. I agree with his part about that they can use it to us, to throw it back on us, but if we did it and if they're really all for it, they'll vote for it.
And throwing it back on us doesn't matter. If we made our vote, it should be thrown back on
Right.
us. That was our vote.
We're still making recommendations. We don't decide things, but at the same time, I agree. What is our purpose here if it is not to have a position on things, and that position can act as a check and a balance. And so if it's something that we've denied, I think it's not unreasonable that it should be overturned only by a supermajority.
Well, the thing about it is, we've got the time to dive deep into this stuff. And city council, and those guys are covered up with so much information that they look through the stuff and they may miss it, or they may be, I don't think they always have all the information that they need to make a decision. And if we have a recommendation, because we've looked at it so hard and so long, that I think if they really want to overturn us, I think it needs to be a supermajority.
No, I agree.
And if they can overturn something that we've denied by a simple majority, then why not just
Let them
skip
do it in
having
the
us
first
do
place,
it? Yeah, they can just go, present it at city council, and they can.
Yeah.
rule on it there.
I may be in the minority here, but we're not elected officials on this board. No one voted for us. I think that people in the community that vote for their city council people, that's a city thing, that the public clearly chooses those representatives. I think it should go both ways. I think if we turn something up, they need to be able to turn something down. And if we turn something down, they should be able to turn something up on simple majority. So I may be in the minority on this, but that's where I am.
And I appreciate the argument about elected officials, but, there are branches of our government that are not elected officials that make rulings all the time that we have to stand by. And so, I go back to, what's our purpose here if our votes don't count?
There was one thing earlier that I wanted to get clarification on that Mont had said about the 20% rule. So that is within a 200-foot radius.
Yeah.
And that's state law?
That's currently in the local government code, and I don't want to put.
So we have to do it anyways.
And I think that was Mr. McClendon's recommendation. That's state law, and so it's really not a reason to put it in there, because no matter what, that's going to be there. So nothing you do is going to change that.
Okay. So that could change in the future to be 500 foot at the state level, not the local level, right?
And the problem is putting it, yes. The answer to your question is yes. The problem is putting it in your code, and they change it at the state level. You're still going to follow the state law.
So do we have it in there now stating at 200 feet, or do we just have according to state statute?
I think
we don't have anything.
Right now, I don't think we have anything. So right now, the way it is if somebody does do the petition within the 200 feet, properly file a petition, then they can sit there and request, they can protest the change, right? And we would have to follow that particular state statute. And that will be true in the future as well. So there's nothing right now that you have that's actually in your code, but you are actually governed by that portion of the local government code anyway.
So we're gonna, one of the recommendations was to take that out. We don't even need to reference it because it's just
Yeah,
cleaning it
that-
up, I guess.
That was what Mr. McClendon suggested in the deal. That's correct.
Okay, that's all. That was the question I had.
I'm going to just put that on the recommendation. I know it's state law about the part here, and this is just a clarification, and you take it out, but how many people are really going to know that they have the deal if they get the 20% of the property owners to protest that it would go in? They may not realize, they think, well, hey, it got put in, we don't have anything to do. So is having it in there, well,
No,
I
they
get it,
know
but
now.
you don't want to say that because it's not state
They
law.
learned real
Is there a
quick.
way you could word it to say, or protest? I don't know.
Well, I only bring that up because
No,
if that,
I understand exactly what he's saying.
if that
'Cause
boundary were to ever change,
Right.
it changes the whole game.
But what
if you wanna
my
call it a
comment
game.
was, is to have it somewhere in there where somebody in the public was looking at the UDC, they had an idea to know that there was a state statute that addressed it. You see what I'm saying?
They're gonna call city staff.
Because it could be a state statute and I not know it, but if I know, hey, if we can get the state, even if it's a reference state statute, and they knew that they could go look it up and then they could make the fight if they wanted to.
That's why you hire people like Mont McClendon to represent you. But your point's well taken. I will point out, though, that if you go online to our Code of Ordinances, it will have a cross-reference to the state statute.
Okay, thank you.
So it's in the notes that Chapter 211 of Local Government Code, it's there as well. And there's numerous places where you have to, where there's state law out there that works in conjunction with your Code of Ordinances. So not including it, I think there's still an ample opportunity for someone to sit there and find it.
So basically, on one thing we can do, just to go from listening to some of my other members up here and taking in that, on the revision we did, if we were for still putting the supermajority, we could recommend dropping out the last part after the protest must be written and leave that part out as recommendations.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Is y'all understanding where I was going through on that? Okay. Anybody else have questions on this one? Are there any other amendments that are coming up that you'd like to have questions about? Right now, that ones that I know that we want to look at separately or so far are 1, 23, 69, and that's it?
26.
So unless there's other ones that y'all want to bring up to look over?
So I have 4 on my list, number 1, 23, 26, and 69.
69, right, that's what I've got so far too. I was just trying to see if there's any one that people wanted to, other ones that they wanted to talk out.
So are we discussing buffer yards at all now? No.
Oh, okay, the buffer, okay, so here's the deal. Buffer yards
That's
right
it.
now,
Yeah.
we are not
Gotcha.
discussing them because they were not, no, it's a good point, and I want to bring it up too.
Yeah.
We're not going to discuss them right now because it was not really addressed in the public notice going the first part.
Gotcha.
But one of our motions or one of our items we're going to address going, after we get through with this section, is to staff to look at the recommendations and setting a timeline to get this going in the next few months. I mean, to have public hearings and the whole 9 yards to be to it. So I think we had the recommendations that came through, but I think it just needs to have people tweak it before we go to city council
That's good.
to kick on that part.
I did have one.
Go for it.
52. So when you exceed maximum height, and you, for every foot over maximum height, you set your setbacks on every lot line is, for every foot over, your setback is, you set back 1 more foot.
Yes.
Is that really necessary? I mean, on the front, like away from adjoining or abutting buildings? Let's say you have a tall building next to residential, You build, I understand the rear setback that would abut the residential, but I mean, why would you want the setback in the front that faces the street to be less?
That's a fair point. The front could be considered differently because you're, like you said, you're adjacent to a street in that instance, not necessarily another property. The strange thing about this provision, when you read it as it's currently written, it requires you to be adjacent to something residential in order to get this height allowance. If you happen to not be adjacent to residential, you can't use this allowance. So we were trying to amend it to make it useful for everyone.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. All right. It just didn't make sense to me to penalize all sides of a building when really one side's really the problem.
Okay.
So,
And if you wanted to amend it, maybe to remove the front property line, all property lines except the front, that could be appropriate.
Separately.
yeah,
And that was 52.
52.
Okay.
And could you,
Mhm.
would you mind explaining 55 to me?
Sure.
And
Okay, so 55 is our definition of a front lot line. And currently, very vague, and it only refers to a home and a homeowner's property. Makes no mention of commercial properties.
Okay.
So we're trying to, again, clarify, be very specific with what we are meaning. So it applies to all parcels where a public street or right-of-way ends and your property begins, because every property has to have access that's coming from a street or right-of-way. So on parcels intended for multifamily apartments, mixed use or non-residential commercial development, the front lot line is going to be the abutting dedicated street right-of-way of greatest designation. So if you're adjacent to a thoroughfare and a local street, the thoroughfare is your front. But if you're adjacent to two thoroughfares on a corner, it's going to be the one that is most narrow. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And then on the residential, it's going to be, of course, the abutting dedicated street right-of-way of least designation. So if you have a local street and a collector, it's going to be the local street. Or again, the most narrow if you have two local streets.
Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all go through and look to see, flip through to see if there's any other ones that. I want Mr. Warner to be.
No, it's fine. What was it? What was Mr. Holman addressed rear setbacks?
So that
was
is
69.
item 69.
Okay.
We're adding clarifying language for when you have a garage that is facing an alley or a side street.
Yeah.
And so, well, that's not, let me go to the next one with the actual revision. So the way staff proposed it was trying to add clarifying language that you are measuring from the property line that is parallel to the garage door. And his language clarifies, because you might have an instance where you have an odd-shaped lot and it's not actually parallel.
Gotcha.
And so someone might try and find a loophole.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to go through this stuff yet.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, everyone, y'all, any other ones that causing pain that we need to pull out before we vote on the other ones?
Okay.
Okay, I'm seeing, go back, I want to make sure, Kristen, you saw the same ones that I did. I had, if I throw my pieces of paper everywhere, I had 1, 23, 26, 52, and 69.
Yes.
Okay, so I would like to see if anybody had a motion to approve the other items besides those.
So motion to approve all items excluding 1, 23, 26, 62.
52.
52, excuse me, 52, and 69.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Hardaway. Do we have any further discussion on those? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries 8-0. So let's move into, let's come.
7-0.
Oh, Terry, let's step, okay. I didn't see her sneak out. Okay. So let's move on to the ones that we wanted to pull out to see about making amendments to before we forward to City Council. The first one we had was item number 1, and I believe that was with the revision that the definitions say if a block face contains only one or more single-family housing types, single-family cottage, single-family detached dwelling, including industrialized housing, single-family garden home, and townhouses, then the block face shall only contain single housing, family housing, duplexes, multiplexes, and apartments shall be permitted across the street from existing single-family housing only when either the proposed duplexes, multiplexes, and apartments or the existing single-family houses do not face that street.
Mr. Chair, for the record, you left out not, so shall not be permitted across the street.
Yeah, we're saying it's.
No, they're making
It
it.
should be shall, not.
They,
Oh, okay, you're doing Terry.
you're looking at the one that Terry gave us.
Okay.
That's was their recommendations, and I believe the staff had concurred with that as well.
So I've got two that say staff recommendations.
This one right here.
Okay.
The one that Mr. Holman gave us, where you'll have the blue highlights and the yellow markers.
Okay.
Shall.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
This, Mr. Holman had presented the ones with a markup of what the city had put with their comments.
That's number.
So he's doing, he's going down here, he's tying this down to here.
As amended.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So you get your motion?
I move to take the recommended revision of item 1.
Second.
We have any discussion? Do we have any further discussion on that item? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. And while we're on those parts there, let's just skip to 69, which would be Mr. Holman's recommendation, which is basically, I guess, should I go ahead and read this for the record? The proposed revision for item 4 in the RE, SF1, SF2, MDR, and HDR districts, an accessory structure may be built to within 18 inches of the rear lot line if the property has paved alley access. However, if a garage or one-story carport has its vehicular access facing a street or alley, right-of-way, or access easement, the minimum setback shall be 20 feet for garages or 5 feet for one-story carports not having solid side walls. Setback shall be measured from the nearest right-of-way or easement boundary in a direction extending from the right-of-way or easement boundary in a line perpendicular to the face of the garage or carport. Does anyone have questions on that or wish to make a motion?
Move to approve as proposed.
Second?
Have a motion by Mr. Gloiner and a second by Mr. Sawyer. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and take the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Next item will be item number 23, which is the supermajority clause.
I've got a question before we move on.
Yeah. Okay.
So 69, when we said that we just we made a motion, we approved the proposed revision. We're talking about Terry and Mont's revisions, not what's shown in this.
Right,
Correct.
right.
All right, just want to make sure.
I actually read his
This-
revision right
Gotcha,
there.
all right, just make sure.
And then I had a question. Are we moving on to 23? Are you good with that? You're squared away?
Yeah, it's moving to 23.
So the one about the supermajority, thank you. What we're discussing about putting the language back in, because it was taken out, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Putting the language back in to say that they have to have a supermajority in order to overturn whatever decision planning and zoning makes. Okay.
And I think.
Specific to denials.
Yeah,
Because everything's in, yeah.
But if it's in favor, it just, they can.
Simple majority.
They can deny it.
That's right.
Okay.
It only
Only
applies to denials from this board.
Okay.
Does this have to go to council for them to approve
Yes.
it?
Yes.
So they could
We're-
deny that?
What we're doing is we're making a recommendation to
Yes, they
council to
can.
make
By
it.
majority of current.
By majority,
Right.
By simple.
not supermajority.
Right.
I'm just curious.
And I think the discussions we had when we pulled this out is, if I'm understanding, the majority of the people up here wanted to put the supermajority rule back in, but I think we also talked about taking out the part about the 20%, since that was already covered under state statute, and Mr. Wade said, if you looked in the statutes there, it would be cross-referenced online.
So whenever, whoever makes the motion, say that.
Well, I mean, if that's what you want, I could read it the way it would be, if that would be the pleasure of the board.
Yeah.
That would be great, I would believe.
And so the recommendation would be, if the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends against proposed amendment, supplement, change, or modification, the proposed amendment, supplement, change, or modification must receive, in order to take effect, the affirmative vote of at least 3/4 of all members of the city council, period.
Okay. Questions or comments on that?
Can I ask a question? Is there any way we can just reference what the state law is? I understand that it may change as far as the 20%, but you know, a lot of people read stuff and they don't know where to go and look for that. So is there any way that can possibly be referenced?
He did note that. He said what you would do is if you went online and looked in the code and ordinances, it references it there.
I get it, but can it be referenced kind of?
Well, I mean,
where else are they going to find the code of ordinances? They're going to have to go online to look at it.
the difficulty would be in referencing state law is just exactly what you pointed out. It'd be the same as putting it in there, because they could change the section, they could change the even code that is actually in. If you say, or as otherwise permitted by state law, that's really no more than, you could say, if you wanted to, in addition to what's allowed by state law, if the Planning and Zoning Commission, then at least would, I guess, give them a clue to look at state law.
That's kind of where I'm going with
Okay,
that.
because I agree, that was kind of my thoughts at
That's
first.
where I'm going. I would like can we do that?
Of course you can.
I think that would be helpful to those people that are reading that.
Do you want me to read it again as?
Yeah, could you please?
I got a question before you start.
Yes.
So you mentioned the 3/4, the way you're reading it, and we're voting on that?
That's correct.
So we're not voting, I thought we wanted a supermajority.
Well, that
That is
super majority.
that requires
All right,
3/4 of
I'm
the
good.
city council
Thank you.
to overturn.
If you could restate it
Sure.
with her part, just so we could.
In addition to what's permitted by state law, comma, if the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends against a proposed amendment, supplement, change, or modification, the proposed amendment, supplement, change, or modification must receive, in order to take effect, the affirmative vote of at least 3/4 of all members of the city council. I believe I understand the intent. If for some reason we need to sit there and make it a little bit clearer, we will, but I understand the intent of the board is to make some type of reference that there is a state law procedure as well.
Right, I agree with her on that part, because that's really kind of what I was getting to, and I
So
think.
if that's what you want, then somebody can just say, so moved, and second, and then you can go from there.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion? Okay, we'll take the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay.
Nay.
That was show of
Yeah.
hands,
Nay.
so 5-2.
Push it again. It keeps going.
Okay, so motion passes 5-2. Next one is item number 26, which is the setbacks for garden homes and structures. Discussion on that, and anybody like to make a motion to amend if so?
How did we word that earlier? 10-foot.
Robbie, is it written right?
I think we just
Is it no change?
vote to not revise it.
Okay.
We make the motion in affirmative.
Is it written right? There's no change to it, right?
Yes, I mean, what's in the UDC right now, it sounds like what, you're just wanting that to stay in there, and that is correct. That requires a 10-foot setback from a zero lot line on a property, garden homes, specific to garden homes to that adjacent property.
So if I'm reading that correct, what we would do is we'd make a motion to approve item 26,
And then deny it.
then vote in the negative.
Yeah. So backwards.
Do we have a
right?
motion?
Yeah.
Move to approve as proposed.
Is there a less confusing way to do it?
Just make a motion that says
Is there a less?
pools need to be 10 foot away on a
Because we've
garden
got to
home.
do everything in the affirmative, correct?
What were you going to say?
I think you already have a motion. Do you have a second?
No, we haven't had a motion
You don't
yet.
have a
We were
motion?
just discussing it.
You can move to deny the recommendation of staff in item 26, and that would
Okay.
be fine too.
Okay.
Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, I move to deny the recommendation, item 26.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Goyner and
So
a
now we
second by
need
Mr.
to
Sawyer.
clarify, because we just changed how we've been doing it for 2 years.
Yeah.
So
Well,
he
I haven't been
he
around
has-
for 2 years, so I've got to tell me these
We've
things.
always been told
We
we've
need to
always
make
been
sure
told.
we're voting the way we think we're
You
voting.
are voting not to approve, not to take the recommendation of staff. That's why it's important when you said deny. So when you say aye right now, that means you're not taking staff's recommendation.
So for clarification, on the items that can come before you, that's typically what we ask you is make a motion in the affirmative. If you think back about the last time we did this, y'all went through and said what you approved and then denied the remainder. So we did do a denial also on that. This is just different than a regular case.
Okay, because we kicked it, okay.
But you're clear on what item 26 is, you're good?
Yeah, we're wanting to leave it as the original.
Okay.
If the motion is to deny it, and we say aye, we have denied it. Yes.
Correct, okay.
It's backwards.
It's just kind of backwards then.
I get it.
All right.
I get it.
Call it.
So we had a motion by Mr. Goyner, a second by Mr. Sanders or Sawyer?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I've been called worse.
I had to say that since I messed up too many times. I got it right
You can
this
call me
time.
Nancy if you want.
Okay, all in favor of denying the staff's recommendation, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Next item up is item number 52, which is the specific allowance for height. And I think
Yeah,
You
I
had
just, I just thought it was, no need to punish a landowner or a building, on all sides when we're just trying to meet it on one side. So,
do we
it's
need?
kind of like,
So this is.
it's kind of like, buffer yards for a building. We don't.
even mention buffer.
Does that make sense?
So we're going to exclude the front-facing.
The front or, yeah. Or all facings that.
Word that properly.
Abut residential. How's that?
Would you, you can either amend it to say from all property lines except the front property line, or you can say from all property lines that are adjacent to residential districts.
I like that one.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
The residential. So moved.
So basically, that one-to-one setback, make sure I got this right for.
Yeah, that's what I wanna make sure
Jordan
we-
needs to understand so it's the
draw you a
one-to-one
picture.
setback on all sides except for the front, because
No, it's a one-for-one setback on all sides that
Adjacent.
adjacent residential.
Right.
Can you add for all rear and side setbacks adjacent to residential?
Oh, rear and, yeah.
That, because you're wanting to exclude
The front.
the front of the building or the house.
And if the sides are commercial on each side, that's fine too. Exclude those.
I'm looking at Mr. Wade. Do you have questions or comments?
I think when you say rear and side, then you could say excluding front, but it's okay. Rear and side's fine.
Either one.
Whatever staff prefers, that's fine.
Fewer words better for me.
So
Pictures. I'm a
isn't it
picture
just
guy.
simpler to say excluding front?
That's fine.
It's fine.
Okay.
It's his motion.
Okay. Okay, can you restate your motion? Can we restate the motion?
1 foot back.
That'd be good.
That borders residential.
Okay.
But excluding the front face of the building.
Okay, so what I'm proposing is the setback plane
Are they?
the building height may be increased beyond the maximum permitted if the setbacks from property lines in the rear are increased by 1 foot for every height above the maximum permitted height. Rear and sides. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Rear and sides.
Okay.
Second?
Okay. Do we have any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the proposed amendment, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. And that concludes the ones I have. Is that correct, Kristen?
Yes.
So now we move on to our next item of business. 4.2.
So this item is for the board to give staff direction, if you would like, for us to start a process to review landscape and buffer yard requirements within the Unified Development Code. This is a proposed timeline we have put together. If you direct staff this evening to start the process, we will take a resolution to City Council on August 13th to approve the alternative notification process, have that notification period September 3rd through the 26th, hold a joint public hearing September 26th, bring it back to P&Z October 3rd, and council October 8th and 22nd.
We just had the public hearing.
No, this
So-
is for the landscape requirements and buffer yards.
So I can help explain this. So when you do a notice process for amending your zoning code, right, you have to give notice to the public as to what they're going to be talking about, and what issues that they might be interested in bringing forth when you have the public hearing. We have an alternative notice process where y'all have, where we put forth what our proposed amendments are, and we give notice to the public what the proposed amendments are, then we have a joint hearing. It's completely appropriate for you to have other people to bring other suggestions for it, but which were, obviously, a lot of work was done in a very well-presented proposed amendments, primarily dealing with buffer yards. But at that point in time, there had been no notice given to the public at all about those proposed amendments, right? So the proper way to do it, and this is the way it's going to be. I mean, every time you amend it, you have to give notice of the specific amendments that you wanted to do. Okay? So that wasn't done, but it's completely appropriate. And what we wanted to do, because we believe that there was interest in seeing these amendments move forward, is go ahead and show you what the timeline is and get from this body a recommendation to the council to go ahead and move forward with it. And so that's why this is in front of you today, is for that. And y'all, you know, whatever you want to talk about as far as that process is and the buffer yards, you're welcome to do so. But that's why there is, that notice for that hearing, even though it was discussed in detail there, the rest of the public didn't know that those are going to be discussed in detail there.
So is this the fastest route to getting those fixed, date-wise?
That's correct. As far as it's my understanding, that's correct.
Amended, I should say, not fixed.
So one thing that was mentioned with the alternative notification process we just did was we did not have time to do the insert in the utility bills. So that is something council wants us to do every time we have to do this process. So this is the quickest to get it in the September bills.
So last question, so in the future, like 6 months from now, if someone from the public brings an amendment up on a napkin, we can't hear it until we do this, we re-mail it out, is that right?
So if they come up at a citizen comment period and bring a proposed amendment up?
Yeah, like the first amendment hearing we had all these amendments that were just thrown up here. Do those need to go through the same?
Yeah.
Or wait till 6 months later?
So that was when the very first time y'all passed the UDC?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that would have been, the first time around is a little bit different.
So
Then the amendments going forward, you know, if they had been, right.
That's good. It's more structured that way, because the way it was at the request of certain city council members, they wanted them to be able to propose an amendment change from the floor.
Yeah.
On the napkin.
Yeah, I don't,
Talk about it.
and if y'all want to blame the new city attorney, you can. But I do agree with you, Mr. Sawyer, the more structured process is, and what, you know, one of the things that you can get hurt on as a city is if you mess up procedurally. And so you want to make sure that you follow procedurally as close to the law as you can so that the public does get notice. And so that's why, since there wasn't anything in the newspaper, nothing as far as on the website or anything regarding the additional proposed amendments, that's why we're going to go through this process for those.
Okay, so in the future, there is a defined process that you have to run the amendment to her within X amount of days prior to get it on the...
Just right. So what we do is we pass a resolution for when there's going to be, if you take the alternative notice process, there's still the state statute notice process that you can follow in lieu of the alternative notice process. But what we do is we have the city council pass that alternative notice process, have the joint hearing, so that then there's just one public hearing, and with both bodies are in there. And the idea is to try to streamline it somewhat and still give adequate notice to the public.
This actually makes it a little quicker than doing the other mail out, all that other stuff.
This gives assurance that this body wants the city council to take up those proposed amendments that came at the joint hearing up as soon as possible.
Okay.
And I understand, Jordan, what it was going in to do this, and I think this was one of the ones that I met with Kristen and them yesterday, and one of my first parts before I even knew they were having the timeline is that we needed to be post-haste and not just saying, hey, yeah, we're going to talk about it, that we're showing, yeah, we're talking about it, and this is how we're trying to move forward.
And just to be clear, if they were, like tonight, y'all received a couple of proposed amendments from Mr. Holloman tonight, but those were on items that we specifically had already posted, given notice out before, et cetera. So if, you know, the notice had included all the various areas where buffer yards were included, then it would have been sufficient. But, and there were a few areas where you know, it's questionable whether it was or not. But so that's the difference between the two. In case, why were you able to take up a couple of the proposed amendments on the UDC amendments before? Well, those are ones that we were already bringing before you. We already given notice to the public for. We already had the joint hearing on, et cetera.
Okay, so last question. 6 months from now, when we have this process again, how soon do they have to turn it in to the city to be heard?
Well, they can turn it in at any time with the city, and if there are amendments that If there are amendments that staff sit there and want to recommend to this body, then at any time, don't have to wait for 6 months. That we just have set up a 6 months to make sure that we do review it at least every 6 months,
Well,
right?
to get it posted to,
How much time do you need before meeting?
So the legal notice that gets approved with the alternative notification process has to be submitted for the council agenda 2 or 3 weeks in advance of that meeting.
Whatever council meeting that would be.
So would that be a month in advance of your planning and zoning commission meeting for your hearing?
I'm talking about that every 6-month one, that we're doing 4 semi-annual reviews.
Right.
So the next 6-month one,
Mm-hmm,
you're gonna set the date on that.
right.
How soon if I had an amendment that wanted to go out, how soon do I need to get that to you? And say we worked it out, and you like the amendment, whatever, how soon do I need to get that to you after you tell us what the date is?
If we use this process with the alternative notice and the joint hearing, it's going to be at least 6 weeks before the joint hearing, because we have to approve the notice in time for the utility bill inserts before the meeting.
Okay, 6 weeks.
Well, no, it'd be more than that, because I would need it would be more like 8 weeks, because I would need it before it has to go onto the agenda.
The city council approve it, or to do the timeline to be
Yes.
able to go.
I guess what I'm asking is, can you, in 6 months, can you notify the building community of that date?
Yes.
Okay.
And you know, I don't know, city council, if they're gonna listen to this whole meeting or not, but for those of, you're not gonna be here in 6 months. I won't either. You and I are both when are Jordan and I rolling off, and Susan?
December 1st, so it'll be before
Okay.
the December meeting. November will be your last meeting.
The three, Susan, myself, and Jordan.
Yes.
So for amendment's sake, I'm just make note of that.
Okay.
I know Jordan and I've been on the UDC thing for 6 years or something.
A decade.
But would it be even, I'm just going for him, even if they have amendments that they see already see that are coming up to do that they can turn them in at any time,
Yes.
right?
Sooner rather than later.
Okay.
Anyway.
Does that help a little? I mean,
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
what it does,
I'm
but it
just-
help it if you,
just laying it
and I
out
think
there.
if it was something that really came up that we found out that was really maybe a major issue or a major hindrance or whatever it is, that we wouldn't necessarily have, if I'm going to you, we wouldn't have to necessarily wait till the 6 month, that if it's something major, it could be brought up individually.
I'm just trying to prevent what this is.
Yeah, we don't want to have multiple, I don't want y'all, after I'm gone,
Yeah.
to have multiple public hearings when,
No.
Right.
so we got to figure it out. That's
Well,
fine.
hopefully, after that one and getting a lot of these put out, hopefully there won't be as many
Oh, there will
things.
be.
Well, I know there
Well,
will be.
and also remember, it's just for zoning changes within the UDC.
Right.
Like the parallel construction one, it's my opinion, that's not a zoning change. So
Right.
it don't have to go through any of this process. You just have to go to the council with the change in the ordinance. So it's really only dealing with zoning. And zoning always is a multiple notification process, whether you use the alternative notice or you use the one that's in the statute. It's already there.
Okay. So we've had the discussion on this, and we're making the recommendation. Is this something we need to vote on too, I'm assuming?
I don't know if you need a vote. I'll
We have to have another
defer to
public
our
hearing.
legal. It's not a public hearing. It's just if the commission wants to give staff
Do
direction.
we need to vote whether we recommend it, or can we just say we recommend staff to do that on this, Mr. Wade?
I think you're posted where you can vote.
Okay. So I think just for clarifications to that, can we have a motion to make a recommendation to the city council to staff for the timeline and the amendments to the buffer yards?
I'll make a motion to approve I'll make a motion to recommend to send Mr. Holman's landscaping and buffer yard amendments to staff for review for approval to follow the dates here certain on the television screen?
You're doing good.
Fun. Okay. Second. Is there a second?
Second?
We have a motion and second. We have a motion and second. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. And
What?
item 4.3.
Yes.
Oh, we're still. We were 2 more. Oh, dang.
Okay, so that is my fault. I don't have it to project on the screen. But it was in the packet, a 5-year review of the comprehensive plan. This is a provision within the comprehensive plan that was adopted in December of 2018. It directs staff to bring a report to the Planning and Zoning Commission, advising of the status, what we've accomplished in the past 5 years. The report that is in your packet first addresses the top 5 recommended plan priorities. Those were development of a well-thought-out impact fee program, revise the zoning, subdivision, and other land development ordinances into a unified development code, begin a formalized neighborhood planning program, link the Playa Lake recreational opportunities with new stormwater drainage criteria, and consider a parkland dedication ordinance, and then formally adopt the cultural arts district corridor concept and extend it to the Canyon Lake area. The City Council adopted the impact fee program October 27th of 2020. As of January 31st of this year, a total of $8,645,451 has been collected in roadway impact fees. The Unified Development Code, of course, was adopted May 9th, 2023, went into effect October 1st, 2023, and we are here today considering amendments to it. We began our formalized neighborhood planning program, and on April 9th of 2024, City Council adopted the first 2 neighborhood plans for the Jackson, Mahon, and Dunbar Manhattan Heights neighborhoods in District 1 and 2. We have started the process for the Parkway Cherry Point neighborhood plan. The Parks Master Plan was adopted by City Council in November of 2022. Connectivity for neighborhoods is a large part of the plan, particularly in the Canyon Lakes area, and a parkland dedication ordinance is mentioned as a long-term goal in that master plan. We have not begun implementation of a cultural arts district corridor concept yet, but it is one of the goals that we will be working on. Other recommendations as identified in the plan include refining and incorporating the commercial retail node concept. The Unified Development Code revised our regulations and established new commercial districts and their appropriate land uses, including the auto urban and neighborhood commercial districts. They are appropriate on major thoroughfares or at nodes. Incorporate the revised thoroughfare paving cross-sections into the subdivision ordinance and integrate the alignment and platting criteria into all staff recommendations. Development requests are evaluated based on our master thoroughfare plan, and the Unified Development Code revised our subdivision regulations and implemented the street system minimum standards and right-of-way widths as part of our street cross-section regulations. Re-examine and update current annexation and growth policies. On September 1st, 2019, the Texas Local Government Code was updated to prohibit cities from performing involuntary annexations, so we cannot complete the 2015 recommended annexation areas from our Annexation and Growth Advisory Committee, but we have continued to receive petition annexation requests. Since we have actually annexed a total of 8.74 square miles between 2019 and 2023. Lastly, continue to enhance downtown. As part of an effort to streamline and remove development requirements and inconsistencies, the UDC removed parking requirements for all development downtown and also removed the majority of the 1999 Central Business District design regulations in order to encourage new and redevelopment downtown. With that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
I have none. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
Okay.
Thank you. That concludes our meeting, and we are adjourned at 8:10.